Hello friends, welcome to my channel, a channel for learning simple coding. If you find this video to be helpful, please like, share and subscribe my channel. In this video, we are going to learn the concept of controlled component, and the same control component can be implemented by the concept of single source of truth. So these two things we are going to understand in React with Typescript. So if you remember that in last video we have seen the composition and we pass here the initial value by the use of use state hooks. The initial values are there, but I want to set here a reset button at the top, and then we want to implement the concept of controlled hook. So here in home component I need to specify a button here. I say button, and the name of this button is reset, and I specify class name also here, and I say button, and I say button warning, like this. Save this. So we have refresh and we have this reset button here. So this reset button, if I click here, then all the values here should be 0 that we want to implement. So how we can implement this? So you see that here I am passing the value to the counter, this, but this counter variable here is using their own state. So in React is not possible to maintain a separate states by the component, and one component can modify or reset the state at runtime. It's not possible. So the home component, this home counter component cannot modify the state of counter component at runtime. So that's why we have to disable this line, because we can't use the on states. In place of this, what we have to do, we have to control the state of this counter by the home counter. So that's why this counter will become the controlled component, because it's controlled by the home counter component. And whenever we are removing this state from the counter and we are just linking the state of the home counter to the counter, that concept is called single source of truth. That means single source of control, because the home counter component will control this counter component. So we have to remove this states, and now we have to set the value of this here on the basis of props. So we say props dot count, that we specify here. Props dot count we specify here. Now problem we have in increment and decrement, because these two functions will depend on this concept. So that's why what I do, I just remove this on click right now, because it would not work right now. So we will deal this later. Just I remove this and save this. You see that we have this component here, and if I run it, I refresh it, so we have an initial value, and I click on this. See, we have to remove this to all 0. For that, what we do, in home counter component, I need to create one more function, and I say that function is called const reset, and here I specify the arrow component here, this. Then in reset, what I do, I say const, then we say counters, and we can say L counter, local counters. Then here I say that counters dot map, and here under the map I will read the value of one counter like this, and here what I do, I just create this, and I say c dot count equal to 0, like this. I have to do that. Then I say return c. So I save this. So I reset all the values. by this, and then I return the C. Then this value we have to specify to the counter. So I say set counter, set counters, and here I pass L counters like this, and I save this. So all the values I replace here by this function. Now this reset, we can say reset all. This reset all I need to specify here on a reset button. So we have this reset button, and here I say on click, and we fire the reset all here, and I save this. Now you see, I refresh it. Now we have initial value. Increment decrement would not work because it's disturbed. I click on this and we have the reset button working. You see, I again refresh and that reset button is working properly. Now we have to make some modification for decrement and increment, because now it's a single source of truth and this is controlled component. All this activity is managed by the home components. Now we have to change and make some modification, and we have to create two more functions here. So first function I am creating here for increment. So I say increment, and this is the function name. So I specify here increment. Now I create this function like this, and here remember that in increment I will need a one single counter that is currently we are clicking on. So I say counter that is coming. Now I have to specify the type of this counter. So the type of this counter would be of this counter type. So we say that would be of counter type, not a array. It's a simple one here. Now what I need, this we have to call increment, we have to call here. So what I do now, I here pass a counter and one property as a counter, and second property I pass on increment, and here I specify on increment, I specify increment function like this. So I save this. Now because this property change, counter is change, on increment is change, so it will generate error. So we go to counter. Now we have to specify a change property that we are passing here a counter. So that counter is what? That counter is of the object of this type, number and this. So we say that here again I copy this interface. We can repeat in separate file also, but I am copying this and I specify this interface also on a top, and I say that is counter type. So I specify here that this is counter type. You see, this is counter type. Now we have an error for increment also, because this increment is not available here. So I need to specify here that we need increment. So on increment also, and that is a function. Remember that this increment is a function that would not return any value. So we say void, but it will have a counter, because that counter we are using here in this function like this. Here we are using this, so that will return a counter. So we specify here that it would be of counter type. Remember that we are specifying here, that would be of counter type of counter we will have in increment, this type. Now we have everything. We use here counter dot count for display value, and for you can say destructuring, we can also do like this. We say const, and here we may use object, and we say count property, then we say on, we say counter property, then we say on increment, and here I say props dot, we say props that I need to use before the return statement. Here you see we have counter, then we have on increment, so I can remove this props also, and for increment here I say on click, and I specify here on increment like this, and here I pass the counter that is coming, you see. So I save this. So we have this button on click, and here we are passing this on increment counter type, and that's why I need to specify here this function also, because it's a way to execute the events. So we are executing this, we are calling this on increment, we are passing the current counter here, and if I try to run it, you see if there is some working property, I increment this. So this is not working right now because we have to make a coding for increment also. So I go there, and in increment I need to make a coding. So what I do, first of all I create a constant, I say L counters, local counter here, and I need to take all the property of counters first of all the value of counters that I need. So that is the counter which I require here. So this is the counter, and it is of array type also. So what is the problem? Okay, that name is also counter, so I need to remove it from this because it's a single counter, and this is the counter array which I require. And then after that I need L counter dot L counter, then I need to create one variable of index type because I need to find the index of. So I say counters dot index of this counter index that I need here. I need to find out the index of this. Then I need L counter, and I need to find out index from by the L counter or the counter, and then I say L counter index dot value equal to L counter dot count plus 1, and that would be of index. And here also I say count value should be increase. After that I need to update, so I say set counters, and here I need to specify L counters like this. Save this, and we try to check now the increment is working. I refresh it, you see increment is working now perfectly without any problem. Reset is also working, increment is also working. Now we have to work on decrement. So for that, just copy paste. I just copy this and paste here, replace this to decrement like this. Now I have to make here minus in place of plus, and that decrement I need to pass here. So I say on decrement, and I need to pass this value, and I say that decrement is decrement like this, and I save this. Now it's generating error that decrement is not available. So go there once again, just copy this and paste this, and here we specify that this data type is a function of decrement for handling event. Again counter type. Now in place of this I need to pass this event here, and I save this, and here in place of decrement increment I need to pass decrement. Okay, so I save this, this spelling mistake is there. On decrement, okay, that would be from here, because I need to check it from the property also. I need to have this from the property decrement also, and then we have decrement here. And if I try to refresh, and you see that this decrement is also working, everything is working now. So we have learned how we can convert a component into controlled component. By removing their own states, we can maintain the component by the parent states. So that we have learned here. This is the concept of controlled component, and that is also the concept of single source of truth and React with TypeScripts. That's all in this video. I think you learned something from this video. If you learned, please do subscribe. Thank you for watching this video.